Alright, page 120, Conquest of the Emotions. If we remove a disturbance of the spirit or emotion from the thought of an external cause and unite it to the other thoughts, then will the love or hatred toward that external cause, and also the vacillations of spirit which arise from these emotions, be destroyed. An emotion which is a passion ceases to be a passion as soon as we form a clear and distinct idea thereof. An emotion therefore becomes more under our control, and the mind is less passive in respect to it in proportion as it is more known to us. Everyone has the power of clearly and distinctly understanding himself and his emotions, if not absolutely, at any rate in part, and consequently of bringing it about that he should become less subject to them. To attain this result, therefore, we must chiefly direct our efforts to acquiring, as far as possible, a clear and distinct knowledge of every emotion, in order that the mind may thus, through emotion, be determined to think of those things which it clearly and distinctly perceives, and wherein it fully acquiesces, and thus that the emotion itself may be separated from the thought of an external cause, and may be associated with true thoughts. Hence it will come to pass not only that love, hatred, etc. will be destroyed, but also that the appetites or desires which are wont to arise from such emotion will become incapable of being excessive. Then this remedy for the emotions, which consists in a true knowledge thereof, nothing more excellent, being within our power, can be devised. The mind has greater power over the emotions, and is less subject thereto, in so far as it understands all things as necessary. The more this knowledge that things are necessary is applied to particular things, which we conceive more distinctly and vividly, the greater is the power of the mind over the emotions. As experience also testifies, for we see that the pain arising from the loss of any good is mitigated as soon as the man who has lost it perceives that it could not by any means have been preserved. So also we see that no one pities an infant because it cannot speak, walk, or reason, or lastly because it passes so many years, as it were, in unconsciousness. Whereas, if most people were born full grown, and only one here and there as an infant, everyone would pity the infants, because infancy would not then be looked on as a state natural and necessary, but as a fault or delinquency in nature. And we may note several other instances of the same sort. The best we can do, so long as we do not possess a perfect knowledge of our emotions, is to frame a system of right conduct, to fix practical precepts, or commit it to memory, and to apply it forthwith to a particular circumstance. to the particular circumstances which now and again meet us in life, so that our imagination may become fully imbued therewith, and that it may be always ready to our hand. For instance, we have laid down among the rules of life that hatred should be overcome with love or high-mindedness, and not requited with hatred in return. Now that this precept of reason may be always ready to our hand in time of need, we should often think over and reflect upon the wrongs generally committed by men, and in what manner and way they may be best warded off by high-mindedness. We shall thus associate the idea of wrong with the idea of this precept, which accordingly will always be ready for use when the wrong is done to us. If we keep also in readiness the notion of our true advantage, and of the good which follows from mutual friendship, the common fellowships further, if we remember that complete acquiescence is the result of the right way of life, and that men, no less than everything else, act by the necessity of their nature. In such case, I say the wrong or the hatred which commonly rises therefrom, will engross a very small part of our imagination, and will be easily overcome. Or, if the anger which springs from a grievous wrong may not overcome easily, it will nevertheless be overcome, though not without a spiritual conflict, far sooner than if we had not thus reflected on the subject beforehand. We should in the same way reflect on courage as a means of overcoming fear. The ordinary dangers of life should frequently be brought to mind and imagined, together with the means whereby, through readiness of resource and strength of mind, we can avoid and overcome them. But we must note that in arranging our thoughts and conceptions we should always bear in mind that which is good in every individual thing, in order that we may always be determined to action by an emotion of pleasure. For instance, if a man sees that he is too keen in the pursuit of honor, let him think over its right use, the end for which it should be pursued, and the means whereby he may attain it. Let him not think of its misuse, and its emptiness, and the fickleness of mankind, and the like, whereof no man thinks except through a morbidness of disposition. With thoughts like these do the most ambitious most torment themselves, when they despair of gaining the distinctions they hanker after, and in thus giving vent to their anger would fain appear wise. Wherefore it is certain that those who cry out the loudest against the misuse of honor and the vanity of the world are those who most greedily covet it. This is not peculiar to the ambitions, but is common to all who are ill used by fortune, and who are infirm in spirit. For a poor man also, who is miserly, will talk incessantly of the misuse of wealth and of the vices of the rich, whereby he merely torments himself and shows the world that he is intolerant, not only of his own poverty, but also of other people's riches. So again, those who have been ill received by women they love think of nothing but the inconsistency, treachery, and other stock faults of the fair sex, all of which they consign to oblivion directly they are again taken into favor by their sweetheart. Thus he who would govern his emotions and appetite solely by the love of freedom strives, as far as he can, to gain a knowledge of the virtues and of their causes, and to fill his spirit with the joy which arises from the true knowledge of them. He will in no wise desire to dwell on man's faults, or to carp at his fellows, or to revel in a false show of freedom. Whosoever will diligently observe and practice these precepts, which indeed are not difficult, will verily, in a short space of time, be able, for the most part, to direct his actions according to the commandments of reason.